Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're continuing my anti-pumpkin spice series with a fall favorite that's a little different but just as delicious, sweet potato cinnamon rolls. So if you're looking for a cozy recipe that's perfect for the season without the pumpkin spice overload, this one's for you. We'll be using mashed sweet potatoes in both the dough and the filling for a soft, flavorful twist. So grab your apron and let's get started. First, we'll make the dough. Start by activating your yeast. In a small bowl, combine 1 cup of lukewarm milk with 2 1/4 teaspoons of active dry yeast and a half cup of sugar. Let it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes until it's frothy. This step ensures our yeast is alive and ready to work. Once the yeast is activated, combine it with 1/3 cup of softened butter, 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 cooled cup of mashed sweet potatoes. The sweet potatoes give the dough a subtle sweetness and a lovely orange tint. So I let that mix a bit until it's just combined. And then I gradually add my 4 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 cup at a time until a soft dough forms. Depending on the moisture of your sweet potato, you may not need all of the flour, so definitely add it gradually. And as I mix, I make sure to scrape my bowl and my attachments to ensure that all of the ingredients are thoroughly combined. Towards the end of mixing, I did switch my attachments to the dough hook to cut down on kneading time, but if you don't have a dough hook, don't worry, you will just spend a little bit more time during the kneading process kneading your dough by hand. So now that we combined our wet ingredients and flour, it's time to knead the dough. This is where the magic really starts to happen. You're going to turn your dough on a floured surface and get ready to knead for about 5 to 7 minutes. Kneading helps develop the gluten, which is what gives our cinnamon rolls that soft, chewy texture. If you're new to kneading, don't worry, it's pretty simple. You'll start by pressing the dough with the heels of your hands, then fold it over, give it a quarter turn, and repeat. You'll notice the dough will start off sticky, but as you work, it will gradually become smoother and more elastic. If it's sticking to your hands too much, just sprinkle a little more flour as needed, but be careful not to add too much. You want the dough to stay soft and slightly tacky so it doesn't end up too dense. Once it's smooth and springs back when you press it gently with your finger, you're done kneading. Now I'll place the dough in a greased bowl, cover it with plastic wrap or damp towel, and let it rise in a warm spot for about 1 to 1.5 hours or until it's doubled in size. So while the dough rises, we'll make the filling. In medium bowl, combine 1 cup of mashed sweet potato, half a cup of brown sugar, 1 to 2 tablespoons of cinnamon, depending on how much cinnamon you want to taste, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, a pinch of salt, and for a little extra warmth, you can add 1 teaspoon of ground nutmeg and a half teaspoon of ground ginger. Mix that all together until smooth. Here, I'm just adding a little bit more cinnamon because I wanted to taste that warmth a little more in my filling. After you let your dough rise 1 to 1.5 hours, remember it should be double in size, you want to roll it out onto a floured surface. So here, as you can see, I'm just ensuring my counter is covered with flour, and then I'm pouring my dough right on top. So here, I'm just rolling out my dough. You want to try to get it to be about 16 by 12 inches. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can always cut the ends off, but try your best to get it to at least 16 by 12. Next thing you want to do is spread the softened butter evenly over your dough. Then take your sweet potato filling and spread it out even over the buttered dough. Make sure to leave about a 1/2 inch border around the edges when we spread so the filling doesn't spill out while rolling. So you want to start from the long side of the rectangle, begin rolling the dough into a log, and you want to roll it tightly but not too tight. So you want it to hold its shape without squishing out the filling. Just keep it nice and even, taking your time, and you'll end up with a perfect neat roll. Now that you got your log, it's time to cut into rolls. And you should get about 12 to 15 depending on how you cut them. If you don't have a sharp knife, you can also use dental floss. So you'll just slide the dental floss under the log where you want to make the cut, cross the ends of the floss over the top of the dough and pull. This gives you perfectly round rolls every time. As you cut your rolls, begin to place them into a greased baking dish. Make sure to leave little space between each one to allow space to rise. Here, I'm just making sure that they all fit because I probably should have cut 15 and I cut 12, so they're really big. But whatever size you decide to cut, 12 or 15, these need to rise again for about 30 minutes. So you want to cover with plastic wrap or a towel and let them sit for 30 to 45 minutes until they get nice and puffy. I let mine rise for about 35 minutes, and this is what they look like as they were rising. Now we're going to bake in a preheated oven of 350 for about 25 to 30 minutes or until they're golden brown on top. So while that's baking, we can move on to the icing. In a bowl, beat together 6 tablespoons of softened butter, a 1/4 cup of room temperature cream cheese, 1.5 cups of powdered sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and a pinch of salt. So I substituted the vanilla for Trader Joe's bourbon vanilla bean paste, which I love to use. I feel like it elevates the recipe a little bit more, and I also love the way that the vanilla bean seeds look in the frosting. Anyway, either one works. You want to continue to mix until your frosting is nice and smooth. It should look something like this when you're done. So after your cinnamon rolls have baked for 25 to about 30 minutes, they should come out looking like this, nice, golden, and puffy. You'll want to let those cool slightly. Then you can begin to spread the cream cheese frosting on top of the cinnamon rolls while they're still warm. If it feels like the icing isn't thin enough for you or you're having difficulty spreading, you can always heat up the icing in a microwave safe container and just pour it on top of the cinnamon rolls. Alright, that's a wrap on these sweet potato cinnamon rolls. No pumpkin spice needed here. These are the perfect fall treat without it. This is just the second video in my anti-pumpkin spice series, and I'll be sharing more fall recipes all season long. You can find the full recipe below and on my website, so be sure to check that out. If you try these, tag me on Instagram. I love to see your creations, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you soon.